Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivare Dhari. 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 Yashodanandana Vraja Jananandana. Yashodanandana Vraja Jananandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayurado Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayurado Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayurado Madhava Kunja Bihari. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshu Umlinitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kuroti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Garim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurundina Taranam Nama Om Vishnu Budaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Itinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sanyavari Pastya Chade Satarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'd like to first thank all of you for coming, participating in our Sunday feast program, and Kirtan, for those of you who were with us throughout the course of the day. Today was a special event. That Kirtan began at 12 noon and continued all the way up until 15 minutes ago. And for those of you who are here, took part, hopefully that you have an increased appreciation for chanting the holy names of the Lord. And hopefully by cultivating that appreciation for chanting, you'll be able to embrace chanting more as an integral part of your life, which is actually, yes, if you can close that door, it would be good. Which is actually the goal of chanting. Srila Prabhupada oftentimes explained that in chanting Hare Krishna is the means to perfection. And perfection is to chant Hare Krishna. So the means and the end are the same in Krishna consciousness. We chant Hare Krishna so that we can go on chanting Hare Krishna. Kirtaniya Sada Hari. Lord Chaitanya has taught in his Sikshastaka prayer, Janadapi Sunichana Toroa Iva Sahishnana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari. That one can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking himself to be lower than the straw in the street, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. This is a very important verse for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. In fact, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, pastimes and teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the author Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami has written that this particular verse, which we just quoted, should be strung on the thread of the holy name of the Lord and should be put around one's neck for constant remembrance. Therefore, emphasis is placed on developing these qualities if one wishes to chant constantly. Yesterday we did one program, we spoke in someone's home, and we also had kirtan. We spoke a little bit about chanting and glorification of the Lord. And we cited many references from Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, how Lord Krishna describes the characteristics of one who's fully devoted to him. And one of them, those characteristics, is satatam kirtayantomam yatantascha dridhavrita. Satatam means constantly, always. This verse means that the devotee is always kirtan, chanting, always chanting my glories, bowing down before me and engaged in devotional service with great determination. This verse and other verses, Mach chitta magata prana bodhiyaktam parasparam. The thoughts of my devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered unto me. They derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about me. These and many other verses emphasize the importance of constant chanting for remembrance of the Lord. So, as we explained, chanting is the goal. And some may question, how is it that when one achieves the perfectional state of life, some people call it liberation, some people, there are different types of liberation. According to the statements of Scripture, this liberation means to give up one's connection with this temporary material tabernacle, this material world, and to achieve one's eternal constitutional position as a spiritual soul, spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Jivera Swarup Hoya Krishna Nichidas, as described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the constitutional position of every living being is that he's an eternal servant of Krishna. So, liberation has been described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Kalir dosha nidhe rajan asti hiko mahadgana kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vijet. It is described at the age of Kali, Kalir dosha nidhe, means that Kali is an ocean of bad qualities. Elsewhere in the Bhagavatam it describes that in Kali Yuga, the symptom of Kali is that men are short-lived, they're quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Maybe some of us can relate to that. Disturbances. The mind is filled with so many disturbances, unwanted anxieties, stress, and so many events that take place in our life that come of their own accord. Sometimes we're not prepared for them. Sometimes we think we are prepared for them and find out we're not prepared for them. Sometimes we may be prepared for them. And then after finding out that we're prepared, we realized that we weren't fully prepared. But constant disturbance, it's one of the symptoms given in Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore Kali Yuga is known as the age of quarrel, age of strife. And one of the symptoms is that a slight provocation between one person and another, one community and another, one nation and another, a slight provocation can create conflict. So we don't have to be very educated in current events to know that the symptoms are there. Simply look at the front page of a newspaper every day. You'll probably find the symptom somewhere on that page every day of conflict. The latest is North Korea, South Korea. That's the latest drama. But there'll be more. So, therefore it's described, Kalir dosha nidhe rajan. Kali Yuga there's many bad qualities, faults. Astihiko mahadgana. Although the age of Kali Yuga is the ocean of bad qualities, it has one redeeming quality. That in this age, kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangam param vartet. That the redeeming quality for age of Kali Yuga is kirtan, chanting, glorification of the Lord. Yagyai sankirtana prayaya yajanti samedasa, as also explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Men who are intelligent in this age will worship the Supreme Lord, who has appeared in a golden complexion, and who is always surrounded by associates, and they are constantly engaged in Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. This is a verse from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has appeared along with his associates, and he's come to distribute the method by which one can cross over the ocean of material existence in the boat, a suitable boat for crossing over this ocean of material existence, and that is Kirtaniya Siddhahari, by constant chanting of Krishna's names. Lord Chaitanya is described in his Sikshastika prayers that Krishna is very kind, that in this age of Kali, not only just in this age of Kali, he's made himself very easily accessible in his name. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to the living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all of your transcendental potencies, and there are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Out of your kindness you have made yourself so easily accessible by your names. So, what otherwise was very difficult to achieve in previous ages, people aspire, people want, I want to see God, I want to realize God, I want to know who He is. But Krishna is so kind that He's made Himself accessible in His name because He's invested Himself in His name. All of His potencies are there. And it's described also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kali Kali Nama Rupa, Krishna Avatar, Nama hoite hoisava jagat nistara. Then in the age of Kali, which we've already described a little bit, some of the symptoms of Kali Yuga. In the age of Kali, the Supreme Lord is incarnated in the form of His holy name. Anyone who associates with Krishna's name is as good as associating with Krishna directly, and certainly he becomes delivered. That is Krishna's kindness, His compassion. That although we do not have the eyes to see Him, because as explained in the scriptures, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Valochanena Santaksadavi Hridayesha Valokayanti, that if one wants to see the Supreme Lord, one actually has to have suitable eyes to see. Just like even if you want to see something subtle, what to speak of something spiritual, subtle intelligence. You can't see it. You can see the symptoms of intelligence. But even Krishna describes He has the subtle material energies, mind, intelligence, and false ego. It cannot be seen with these eyes. What to speak of something which is completely spiritual, which has no material qualities, which is Krishna's form. Krishna's form is described by Lord Brahma in Brahma Samhita, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam, Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovinam Cha, Vedeshu Durlabam, Adurlabam Atma Bhakto, Govindam, Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna's body is non-dual, completely spiritual, beginningless, has no end, Anantarupam. And He always appears as an ever-fresh youth. But we don't have the eyes to see that body. He tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, He says, it's, not by austerities, not by studying the Vedas, nor by charity. None of these things are sufficient or adequate qualifications to be able to see me as I am, standing before you. He says, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood and seen as I am. And only then can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So it is not a cheap thing to see God. Of course, again, another mercy manifestation of the Supreme Lord is that He's very kindly manifested Himself in the form of Archa Vigraha, on the altar, the deity, which out of His kindness, gives us the opportunity to see Krishna. Although it may appear to be like a material object, still, when the deity is installed and the pure devotee of the Lord calls the Supreme Lord to come and to appear and invokes the Lord's presence in that form, then that deity is non-different from the Supreme Lord. The example is given just like if you put your mail in a unauthorized box. If you put your mail in an unauthorized box, it's not going to get to its destination. Nobody's going to come and pick it up and take it. It's not authorized. You go to some box sitting on the corner of the street, and it doesn't have U.S. Postal Service written on it. Maybe a trash barrel. And you put your mail in the trash barrel, it's going to go to the dump. Nobody's going to look at the address and deliver it. It's not authorized. But the deity is the authorized form of the Lord, who appears by the kindness of the Lord's pure devotee, who, by his request and intensity of his desire and prayer, he asks the Lord to kindly appear in that form to accept the service of those who can't see him. So we can see that form, Archa Vigraha, but to see Krishna's original form, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadya Ardya Govinda Savakarana Karanam. To see that original form, one's eyes have to be anointed with the salve of love of Godhead. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Valochanena. Only by love. Krishna reserves that right to reveal himself He's not going to simply reveal. We can demand, we can try to negotiate a settlement with Krishna. We can try to pay him. But these things are inadequate for forcing him to bend to our desires. He's independent, Svarat. He does not force to reveal himself. And in Bhagavad Gita he explains, Naham Prakasha Shavasya Yoga Maya Samavrita. I'm never manifest to those who are foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Yoga Maya. Krishna says they're covered. They cannot see me. Covered, curtain, a veil. And therefore, in that state of consciousness, they're situated in forgetfulness and don't have the eyes to see. So, to see Krishna is not such a cheap thing. But in the age of Kali, because of the symptoms of Kali Yuga, as we have already described, Krishna is very kind that he's made himself available in his name. Instead of demanding that we see him, then first we have to hear. Prabhupada would give, I always use this example, it's a very suitable example. He says that we invest so much in our eyes and seeing. There's an expression in English, seeing is believing, right? If I see it, I'll believe it. Of course, our senses are imperfect, and there are many reasons to believe that even what we may see may not necessarily be what we think it is because of the nature of the imperfect senses. But still we invest so much in seeing, and that if I see God, I'll accept. But Prabhupada gives the example. He says that if a person is sleeping and he's in danger, he compares the living entity, its jiva soul, in a sleeping condition of life. Sleeping means forgetfulness, ignorance. So a person is sleeping and somebody's about to kill him. His eyes won't save him, but his ears will. If you write a sign, wake up, somebody's about to kill you, and hold it in front of his bed. No. It won't work. But the sound will work. Somebody screams, wake up quickly, somebody's about to kill you. Our hearing can save us, whereas our sight cannot. So although we invest so much in seeing, that if we take into consideration that Krishna is powerful, most powerful, he's omnipotent, all of his potencies are completely there, present in his name. And when you chant Krishna's name, Krishna will act within the heart and purify the heart, cleanse. Cheto darpana majanam bhava mahadevagni nirvapanam. Cleanses the heart. Whereas if Prabhupada also gives the example, if I'm thirsty and if I chant water, 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 I'm still thirsty. I might get a hoarse voice if I continue to chant it, but I won't get my thirst quenched because the name and the substance, there's duality there. There's a difference. Water and the name water, the substance water and the name water, although the name represents the substance, but still it's different than the substance. But Krishna, when we chant Krishna, Krishna is in his name, and therefore we can directly experience Krishna's presence in his name to the degree that we chant with faith. Faith is a very important ingredient or element in chanting. In the beginning, faith may not be very strong, but as one advances and wholeheartedly embraces the chanting as what it can actually do for us, then Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahi Suridaya Krishna Bhakti Kale Sarva Kama Kritahaya. This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, describes the characteristics of faith. Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. So Shraddha or faith is firm, confident faith that by engaging in devotional service to Krishna and engaged in chanting Krishna's name, then automatically all one's subsidiary duties are executed, fulfilled. And such faith in Krishna's name is described to be advantageous for progressive advancement in the path of devotional service. That type of faith. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahisa Sujida Nishchaya. So this Shraddha, this faith, means that the most important activity in this life is, the necessity of this life is to realize my relationship with the Supreme. Sometimes we have a tendency, we speak about necessities of life. As soon as we use this terminology, immediately the mind, what do we think of? Necessities of life. Food, clothing, and shelter. Yes, exactly. We think these are necessities for life. But actually, life has its own existence separate from the body. That's the basic teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So, what these necessities we just described, food, shelter, and clothing, they're necessary for maintaining life in the body. Therefore, they're necessities in that respect. But if we understand the essential truth of Bhagavad Gita, Najayate Mriyate Vakatachin Nayam Buddha Bhavita Vanabhuya, Krishna says, for the soul there's never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. Unborn, undying, eternal, ever existing, primeval. Soul is not slain when the body is slain. Soul is eternal. Dehi no sminyata dehi komaram jovanam jara. Tatati hantara praptiya dhiras tattva namuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly the soul passes into another body at death. Dhiras tatra namuyati. One who is dhira, one who is self-realized, he's not bewildered by that change because he knows that I have an identity which is separate from the body. Identity now is due to identification with the body and identify with the body. And therefore we say the necessity of life is food, shelter, and clothing. But that's necessity for maintaining life in the body. But if we consider that life has an existence outside the body, then life has another necessity. Right? Not just maintaining life in the body. What is the necessity of life? Well, there are many verses. In Govinda Das, one poet, in his song, Bhaja Hure Mana, he says, Edana Jovana Putra Parijana Ite Kiyachi Parati Tere Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Dalamala Bhajahu Hari Parinitire. He says, wealth, sons, wife, youth, family. What is there in it? Just as a drop of water appears on a lotus leaf, such is this life. So at once, let me take up the worship of Sri Hari, the only necessity. And he describes this as the real necessity of life, worship of Sri Hari. Life has its own necessity, separate from the body's necessities. And therefore he says, it's wealth, all these things, just as a drop appears on a lotus leaf, anyone knows that the lotus flower has a thin film on it. If a drop of water appears in that lotus leaf, eventually it going to just drop off. Doesn't have a permanent status as a drop on a lotus leaf. It will fall off. Such is this life, he says. So all those things connected, they'll all go. But life has a necessity. And the necessity of life is chanting Hare Krishna. This is one of life's necessities. Therefore, if we understand this principle, that life also has a necessity, not just necessity of maintaining life in the body. This can give us some temporary comfort, temporary relief from distress, some flickering happiness, chapala sukha, as Govinda Das also describes in his song. Chapala sukha labha lagire. What is it? Sitai atapa bhatta varishana edina jamani jagare vipale sevanu kripana durajana chapala sukha labha lagire. Yes. He describes that serving so many miserly masters just simply for a little pleasure, for some temporary flickering pleasure, flickering, beginning and an end. So we may get some flickering pleasure from satisfying necessities of maintaining life in the body. But if we want Brahma Sokyam, if we actually want happiness, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues, then as Lord Rishabhdev instructs in Srimad Bhagavatam, and we have to take up life's necessity, utilize one's valuable human form of life for chanting Hare Krishna. It doesn't mean that one gives everything else up. It means that one has to add and establish its importance in one's life. Prabhupada would always use simple analogies. I like using analogies. Prabhupada used so many analogies to help us understand this world. In fact, Prabhupada even used an analogy to help us understand the importance of analogies. He understood. He gave an analogy. He said, just like if you want to see the moon moving in the sky at night, if you look at the moon with the naked eye and you study it, it's very difficult to see how it's moving. But if you want to see the movement of the moon, then if you look at the moon through the branches of the tree, because the tree is close, it's something more direct within our experience. So look at the moon going from one branch to the next, and you can see it's moving. But without the branches, it's difficult to see its movement. So he gives analogy to help us understand the importance of analogies. I forgot the analogy I was going to give. Matak smitam jnanam apohanam cha. Anyways. So, it may come to me eventually. But we were talking about the importance of chanting and how we have to prioritize chanting in our life and not just simply cater to the needs of the body. Oh yes, Prabhupada gives the analogy about the bird in the bird cage. Simple analogy. That a person who has a golden bird cage and he wakes up every morning, he polishes the cage, but he neglects to feed the bird. So although every day he may wake up and polish the cage, in due course of time, the bird within inside the cage, because it's not being properly fed, not being fed at all, it loses its life. So in the same way, if we simply live our life just fulfilling our temporary, aspiring to fulfill our temporary necessities of life, but we don't add, and that's the analogy I wanted to use actually, now that I remember, add chanting to our life. Prabhupada used the analogy of, I knew it would come. He used the analogy that if you have so many zeros, if you add them all up, they equal 0. But as soon as you put 1 in front of your zeros, the more zeros you have, the more valuable they become. Right? You have 10 zeros, you have 2 zeros, 5 zeros, 10 zeros. If you put the number 1 in front of your zeros, they all become very valuable because you've added 1 to them. But take the 1 away, add them up, 0. So he uses this analogy to help us understand that although we may have so many what we consider to be valuable necessities of life for maintaining life in the body, and which may give us some flickering temporary pleasure, we have to add something important that gives life a purpose, a meaning, so that one will not simply waste the life, as Govinda Das uses the word kripana, durajana. Kripana means a miserly person. A miserly person is somebody who has great wealth, but what does he do with it? He just counts his money. Doesn't use it for any good purpose. He's a miser. He just simply wants to see his wealth increase. He's got something of great value, but he's not putting it to use. So in the same way, Prabhupada always explained that the human form of life is such a valuable gift for self-realization. It's so valuable. But if we simply waste it, so simply to live for the sake of maintaining life in the body without realizing the actual purpose and goal of life, then what is the ultimate goal? What is the ultimate destiny? Simply one takes another birth again. So, therefore, we want to add chanting Hare Krishna to our life and to realize its significance, its meaning, and its importance in our life. We should chant with faith that by so doing, by chanting Hare Krishna and continuously chanting Hare Krishna with faith, that I will be able to cross over the ocean of material existence and realize how Krishna is non-different in his name. And the result is that the heart, Chaitodarpanam Majnam Bhava Mahadevagnina Parpanam, the heart becomes cleansed of all unwanted misgivings from within the heart. So as we said in the beginning, and I'm going to not speak long because I'm going to stop here. But as we said in the beginning, that the goal of chanting is Kirtaniya Sadahari, to be able to continuously always chant the holy name of the Lord. But if one wants to chant the holy name of the Lord in this continuously and derive the full benefit, then one has to develop these qualities of thinking himself to be lower than a straw on the street, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respect to others, to be more tolerant than a tree. There's a verse, one other verse. Teraskrita vipadlabdak shattak shipta hatahapi nasya tatpati purvanti tadbhakta kavayopihi, which describes the characteristics of a devotee. The devotees of the Lord are so tolerant, so forbearing, that even if they are cheated, cursed, neglected, insulted, cheated, cursed, neglected, insulted, even killed, they're never inclined to avenge themselves. This verse is spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam. Characteristic of a devotee, tolerant. So Lord Chaitanya uses the word more tolerant than a tree. And Chaitanya Charitamrita says that if someone comes and breaks the branch of the tree will never complain. And even if it's drying up, it will never ask anybody for water. So therefore the example is used that if one can become so tolerant as a tree, and devoid of all false prestige and ready to offer respects to everyone. That is Vaishnava. Vaishnava respects everyone because he sees everyone as Krishna's parts and parcels. One who sees all living entities as spiritual sparks in quality one with the Lord becomes a true knower of things. What then could be illusion or anxiety for him? Or as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Vijivanaya Sampane Brahmani Gavi Hastani Sunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshana. Samadarshana. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, he sees with equal vision the gentle and learned Brahmin, the elephant, the cow, the dog, and even a dog-eater. He sees them all with equal vision. He knows that everyone is spiritual spark, in quality one with the Lord. And therefore, because the Lord is situated within everyone's heart, then everyone's heart is a temple of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a Vaishnava, he gives respect to everyone, because he sees that actually Krishna is in their heart. He offers respects, doesn't criticize, but he helps them, tries to help them to turn and to recognize how the Lord is there within the heart. And the Lord will help those who turn to him and to take his instructions and guidance by beginning the purifying process by which one be able to perceive the presence of the Lord within the heart through chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Therefore, it is a lifelong engagement. It is a lifelong engagement chanting Hare Krishna. If we make it a lifelong engagement and dedicate ourselves to chanting, then 6-hour kirtan is not very much. We can go for, after 6, we can go for 24. I mean, some of our acharyas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he chanted for 10 continuous years Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Right? 1 billion names he chanted all day. Haridas Thakur, 300,000 names a day he would chant. Right? He would take just a little time, not even an hour, for other things. The rest of the time he was just always absorbed in chanting. Absorbed. And being so completely absorbed, all his necessities of life were completely fulfilled. He didn't feel any anxiety because he had the ultimate necessity, Krishna, who was maintaining him. And his tongue being always decorated with the holy name of the Lord, therefore the Lord was always present with him, always watching over him, and always giving him protection, even when he was being beaten through 22 marketplaces. 22 marketplaces. Why? Because he was chanting Krishna's name continuously. He was taken and beaten and was attempted to be killed. But when Lord Chaitanya saw his devotee, Lord Chaitanya descended and lied on his back and accepted all of the beatings so that Haridas Thakur would not have to feel the pain, because he had such firm faith in chanting the holy names of the Lord. We should have this faith. It may take time, but it begins by chanting. And if we simply try each day, chant a little bit Hare Krishna Mahamantra, appreciate its importance in life, even if it's just because it's a catchy tune. It will act. It will act. Even if a child doesn't know the fire burns, if the child touches the fire does not discriminate. It will act. The same way, if we come in contact with Krishna's name and we continuously chant Krishna's name, it will act from within the heart. So, thank you for those who came and chanted with us, and for those who didn't, please come for our next kirtan and chant with us. And thank you for your attention. Now we will all associate with Krishna in the form of Krishna Prasadam. Hare Krishna.
this evening because we're running so late. We just please get your prasadam. If there are any young families, try to let the young families with the young children go